I'm Benny, 31 years old. I'm working as a production manager for one of the 10 largest companies in the US. I've worked very hard to get to my current position and I really love my job. My company often holds luxurious parties at the end of the year to appreciate employees' contributions throughout the working year. During the party, there will be activities including dining, entertainment, and a charity auction. Last year's end party also had similar activities as every year. This time the company allows employees to bring a relative along. I immediately thought of Donna, my beautiful girlfriend. The party invested by the company was very grand. The venue is a famous local 5-star restaurant. Donna and I arrived at the party greeting everyone. Donna is very excited about everything around her. Knowing my position in the company, she really admired it. I am also confident that I have scored more points in her eyes. The party with the participation of more than 3,000 employees was deafening. I told Donna to follow me closely to avoid getting lost. Around 6:30 p.m. we started the party. Company leaders will give opening remarks. The next part is to honor and reward employees who have made outstanding contributions. When standing on the podium to receive the award, I was very happy to see Donna standing below, clapping her hands and looking at me smiling. At 7 p.m., we started the dining portion. The party format will be buffet. Beautifully decorated and extremely luxurious dishes were served. The LED screen suddenly appeared with a video of the restaurant's chef. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Anthony, the restaurant's executive chef with nearly 30 years of experience. We would like to respectfully introduce to everyone dishes filled with passion, made from Anthony's unique ingredients, wishing everyone a delicious meal. Everyone was very surprised, and I was very impressed with the chef's eyes and smile at the end of the video. It felt like he was trying to convey something. Having the chef personally introduce the dish made us feel appreciated and cared for. This restaurant really knows how to please customers, I whispered in Donna's ear. She smiled happily. Everyone started eating and drinking happily. Donna's food is delicious. She constantly praises the food here. Not only Donna, everyone nodded while eating. I have quite a hard time eating. With unfamiliar foods, I will hesitate to eat them or even be cautious because I have some stomach problems. Seeing everyone's expressions while eating makes me curious about the taste. I took a look around. The dishes here didn't have name tags or any information about the ingredients. This is very strange compared to other 5-star restaurants I've been to. I don't know what the unique ingredient the chef said is. In the end, I chose a dish that was quite similar to steak. The taste of the dish is very strange, but very delicious. The meat is soft and mixed with sauce. I started to get excited and continued to enjoy the next dishes. Suddenly, Donna shouted loudly with joy. She ran up to me boasting that she had found a ring in the dessert. Donna picked up the ring and smiled excitedly. "Benny, I think it's a diamond." I looked at the ring. It was indeed decorated with a diamond-like stone. I and everyone nearby were surprised. Could this be a random lucky gift secretly prepared by the company? But lucky gifts usually won't be placed in dishes like that, which is confusing. I was bewildered and Donna was very happy to put the ring on her finger. Suddenly, a guy standing not far from us exclaimed, "There are human fingers in the soup!" Everyone who could hear those words immediately turned their gaze towards the guy. Continuously, other strange things appear in food such as hair, eyelashes, and nails. The surrounding atmosphere was chaotic. People talk endlessly about the food. The company representative requested to meet the restaurant's manager and chef. A loud crash and a girl's scream rang out right behind me and Donna. Everyone was silent. The large bowl of hot soup burst and flowed all over the floor. What made everyone scared and dumbfounded was the human skull with some skin still attached with 2 white eyes rolling on the floor. The hand bones with 5 intact fingers floated right in front of me and Donna. Donna hugged me tightly and fainted. Some people burst into tears and some older people even had heart attacks. The sounds of vomiting, crying, screaming all created a chaotic scene. It's like the end of the world is coming. We have to try to escape from that cruelty. We didn't say it, but everyone was aware of what they had just eaten. The haunting incident caused the company huge losses when overnight up to 30% of employees resigned. The horror party from the restaurant was also reported by the national media, and the company's shares fell to a record level. The restaurant's chef was arrested. He's still very proud of what he did. According to the police investigation, the material he said was unique was taken from his wife, who had lived with him for 20 years. He was diagnosed with severe schizophrenia. Donna was so obsessed that she had to undergo psychological treatment at the hospital. Her family was very angry and asked me to stay away from their daughter. I have lost contact with Donna since then. Currently, I still work at the company. Every event organized by the company is also calculated and has very high requirements so that no more unfortunate events would have occurred.
I'm Glenda, 32 years old. I'm a single mother and have a little daughter named Alita, who is 4 years old. My daughter and I live happily in a small house in Boston near the Atlantic coast. I'm working as a nursing staff for a local hospital. The income is decent, so I can give Alita a full life. Alita is my anchor in life and the best thing I have. She helped me get through a terrible time 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I married Steven. My ex-husband is 3 years older than me and is a rich businessman. He is famous for his love of flowers. I followed my friend's advice and gave my absolute love and trust to Steven. We live in a large house in the city of Philadelphia, over 3,000 miles from my current residence. 5 months after the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. Steven was extremely happy when he heard the news. He burst into tears and hugged me. Steven took very good care of me, giving all the good things to me and the baby in my belly. At the 20th week of pregnancy, my husband and I discussed organizing a party to guess the baby's gender. After consulting with the doctor about my health condition and some related issues, my husband and I excitedly prepared for the party, from the colors and decoration themes of the party, games and activities, along with gifts for guests. I asked the doctor to write down the baby's gender on a piece of paper and give it to my best friend to prepare the cake. The party takes place at 8 p.m. at the swimming pool behind the house. The couple's relatives and guests all came. My husband has many important friends and partners. There are people I have never met before, but out of politeness, I still greeted them happily. I'm impressed with a girl named Maria. Maria is so beautiful. She said she's also pregnant at 20 weeks. We shared a lot about our pregnancy story, but I couldn't see Maria's belly clearly, probably because the white dress she was wearing was quite loose. A happy atmosphere covered the party. Steven and I held hands and stood at the center. I can feel the baby in my belly is also happy and kicking gently. The main part of the party is announcing the baby's gender. Everyone was excited and nervous. Small cakes were prepared for each guest. The cake that reveals the baby's gender will have a different color filling than the rest. I was quite surprised when the cake sample was very different from the sample my best friend sent me to see. But it's not too important, so I happily ignore it. Everyone raises their head and counts to 3 to simultaneously break the cake in half. I was quite nervous and shaking, so I was a little slower than everyone else. Everyone's cakes and Steven's were all blue. When I broke the cake in my hand, a red liquid shot out, causing me to scream in surprise. Everyone cheered and congratulated. Pink confetti shot up behind my husband and I. My baby's a girl. Steven happily hugged me, but I didn't react because I smelled a very fishy smell. My hands are covered in blood from the cake. From inside the cake, a baby's tiny hand fell out. Everyone was surprised. The atmosphere was quiet. My heart beat very fast. The smell of blood and that horrible image made me dizzy. Suddenly, a loud, crazy laugh caught everyone's attention. From below the guests, the girl Maria just stepped forward, looking at my husband and me with angry eyes. "What do you think, Steven?" "That's your baby. It's also a girl, and it's 20 weeks. She pointed to the infant's hand on the ground. I turned to look at my husband with puzzled eyes. Stephen looked at me confused and shouted angrily at Maria. "Shut! Whoever allowed you to be here, go away!" Maria laughed loudly again, looking like she had lost her mind. She opened the bag in her hand and pulled out a child's body the size of a large banana from inside and held it up high. Everyone at the party panicked. I held my stomach, so shocked that I couldn't stand. I fainted. Before my eyes is a scary black shadow. Suddenly there was the sound of children crying. The space before my eyes was spinning. The baby's cry echoed and persisted. The newborn baby's face had wide open eyes, red skin, and a big smile with a dark shadow deep inside. I jumped up in surprise and quickly touched my stomach. Surely my girl's still here with me? I was in the hospital. My mother, sitting next to the bed, burst into tears when she saw me wake up. After leaving the hospital, I understood everything clearly. Maria is Stephen's lover. He was with that girl the whole time he loved and married me. Maria and I got pregnant at the same time. When asked to provide and take responsibility for the baby for Maria, Stephen beat Maria, even though she was pregnant with his child. Maria had a miscarriage and suffered from severe emotional turmoil. I filed a lawsuit against Stephen in court. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. I moved to Boston to live, and all the time after that I had nightmares about the newborn until Alita was born. The two of us are living a peaceful and happy life.
I'm Oscar, 26 years old, living alone in New York. Because I have an online job and have free time, I often sleep during the day and then work at night. In recent months, a 7-Eleven convenience store opened near my house. I really enjoy being able to buy food at night while working. A man named David, 45 years old, is the owner of the store. David is recruiting staff and temporarily looks after this place. David designed a room at the back of the store to provide a comfortable place to rest. He was funny and kind. Sometime later, the store had another female employee. Her appearance is not very outstanding, but her way of talking attracted me. Her name is Mary, 26 years old, and she is Mr. David's niece. Gradually, I stopped by the convenience store several times a day to talk to Mary. I started to see that Mary had feelings for me, but David gradually became more grumpy every time he saw me. I guess David is upset because I'm affecting Mary's work. He met me privately and harshly asked me to stay away from Mary. David gave the reason that he did not want Mary to be in danger when getting acquainted with strangers. It's ironic that Mary is old enough to make her own decisions about her life. Of course, I didn't listen to David. Since that tense conversation, David continuously appeared at the store. It's like he's guarding Mary and I so we don't have a chance to come into contact. Many times I asked Mary out to have her own space. She happily accepted, but then always had a reason to refuse. One day I stayed up late to meet a deadline and felt hungry. I went to the convenience store. There was no one inside. I called out to David and he didn't answer. I walked around and then accidentally stopped at the door leading to the room at the back of the store. Just as I was about to approach the door, it suddenly opened loudly. Mary walked out looking haggard, her clothes disheveled. She smiled very awkwardly at me, raised her hand to close the door, not giving me a chance to look inside. I was extremely surprised to see Mary. This was not her shift. Looking at Mary's body, I still saw bruises. I asked worriedly, but she avoided my eyes and said she was fine. That night, I no longer had enough concentration and spirit to work. I always think about Mary and many questions pop up in my head. The following days, I did not see David appear again. Mary said that David had an accident and broke his leg, so he would stay home and rest for a while. Supervising and operating that store will be in charge of Mary. She will stay at the store and use David's room. Mr. David also recruited an additional employee, a middle-aged woman named Joan. Mary and I became a couple not long after. Unlike other couples, our date spot is always a convenience store. Mary never let me or Miss Joan into the back room of the store. One time, I used the restroom at the store. After draining the water, I saw something floating back. It looked like meat and had a very unpleasant smell. I guess the pipe was clogged. This must be leftover food someone had flushed down. This condition lasted for several weeks afterward. Not only the toilet, the store's drain was also clogged. I wanted to handle this for Mary, but she said she would do it herself. It's been a while since David returned to the store. Mary also did not care much for her uncle. The next strange thing is that Miss Joan also disappeared after nearly a month of working here. That day, Mary and I were at the store when the police came to investigate Miss Joan's disappearance. Mary happily cooperated and said she had resigned from the store a week before the missing information was reported. One time I went to the store looking for Mary but couldn't find her. I couldn't hold back my curiosity anymore, so I decided to enter the room at the back of the store to find her. The space inside is very stuffy and dark. I smelled clearly the smell of disinfectant and cleaning fluid. There was something in the corner of the room. I approached it and saw it was a chainsaw. Do convenience stores also use this? "What are you doing here?" Mary shouted loudly, startling me. She stood in the doorway, staring at me in full of anger. Before I could react, Mary immediately kicked me out and slammed the door. I returned home with all kinds of surprised and helpless emotions inside me. The next day, the convenience store closed. I also completely lost contact with Mary. About a week passed. I was worried and couldn't do anything. I decided to report to the police and then received a call from the police. They asked me to come to the station to cooperate in the investigation of the murder of 2 people. Strange things happened all at once. I fell into extreme confusion. The police questioned me about my connection to the woman named Mary. I replied, "She is my girlfriend." Police said she is missing and is the prime suspect for the murder. The first victim is David, who she claims is her uncle, who is actually her lover. Currently, the police have only found Mr. David's head and hands hidden in the room behind the store. They are still looking for other parts of the body. The next victim was Miss Joan. The police found her body in the same room, wrapped neatly in a very large bag with her limbs severed. Police suspect that the chainsaw in the room was the tool she used to perform the dismemberment process. I was shocked to hear the information from the police. I remembered all of Mary's strange expressions over the past time, her carefree appearance that night. Maybe she just did something bad to Mr. David. What I saw in the toilet was most likely his flesh. Miss Jones is also likely to be murdered when she learns the horrifying truth about Mr. David. Police are still actively searching for Mary. I feel scared and disgusted that I have loved the devil all this time. I'm Dante, 46 years old. I live in Houston with my wife and 18-year-old daughter, Selena. 3 months ago, a terrible incident happened that caused us to lose our beloved Selena forever. It was a weekend evening. Around 11 p.m., I drove to pick up Selena from a birthday party. A while ago, she told me to go to Laura's birthday, Selena's best friend. I learned that Laura lives alone. That house was bought by her parents on her 18th birthday. When arriving at Laura's house, silence prevailed. I guess the party is over. I sat in the car and called Selena, but after 3 phone calls, she didn't pick up. I was worried and was about to get out of the car to ring the doorbell when Selena ran out. The girl was still wearing her party outfit, but she was wearing a baseball cap that covered her face. Selena opened the car door and sat in the back seat. I turned back to ask, but she didn't answer. I told her to get in the front seat, but Selena just sat with her head down and shook her head. The smell of alcohol was strong throughout the car. I guess she's drunk because she drank too much. I didn't say much more and started driving home. On the way home, I kept glancing through the rearview mirror in the car to see Selena's situation. While passing a Burger King store, Selena suddenly spoke. "Can I have a burger, Dad?" I was a bit surprised. She spoke with a strange voice and spoke very fast. It took me a few seconds to respond. "Okay, kiddo." I stopped the car in front of a burger store. Selena immediately opened the door and quickly rushed out of the car. I was both surprised and worried, quickly took off my seatbelt and took my phone into the store. I remember it was almost 12 o'clock at night. Entering the store, there were only a few customers and 2 male employees left. Looking at the service counter, I didn't see Selena there. I looked around the store but couldn't see her. I went to ask the store staff. He said just now a girl wearing the clothes I described came into the bathroom. Maybe she felt uncomfortable, so she wanted to use the bathroom first, I thought. I stood at the service counter ordering a cheeseburger. I know Selena's preferences very well. About 5 minutes later, the burger was being made, but Selena still hadn't appeared. I walked towards the bathroom, stood about 1 meter from the door and called out. Selena did not answer. I continued calling and lost my patience. I approached and knocked on the bathroom door. Suddenly, the door slowly opened. I was surprised to see there was no one inside. I could clearly feel the smell of alcohol still in the bathroom. I went to the service counter. She wasn't there. I grabbed the burger and ran to the car. Selena wasn't in the car either. Returning to the store, I looked around again but still couldn't find my daughter. I asked the staff. They all said they didn't see Selena. One of the 2 employees there said he heard the sound of water being flushed while I was ordering a burger. I started to feel worried and really confused. Selena has never had such strange behavior. I told 2 male employees to let me review the images from the surveillance camera, and they happily agreed. Surveillance camera images show that Selena entered the store and headed towards the bathroom. But since then, she has not appeared again. There were the last few customers I saw at the beginning walking out of the store with a girl. I quickly picked up the phone to call Selena, but she left the phone in the car. I called my wife. She said the girl wasn't home yet. By this time, I was really worried and insecure. Everything happened so quickly and inexplicably that I had no time to react. I returned home and told my wife the whole thing. My wife quickly called the police. That whole night, my husband and I didn't sleep. We consoled each other that Selena was just drunk and fell asleep somewhere. Early the next morning, my husband and I went to Laura's house. Laura said the last time she saw Selena was when I picked her up. Laura was very worried. She said she would contact a few other friends to look for Selena and my husband and I. I announced the bad news to Merlin, which was that her boyfriend was 3 years older than Selena. But he didn't have any worries when he found out. Just like that, my daughter mysteriously disappeared. The police are still actively searching. It's been nearly 3 months and my husband and I never lost hope of finding Selena. I always prayed to God for her safety, but he did not hear my prayers. One morning, the local news channel reported a horrific case. At the young girl's house, they found the body of a man who had been strangled to the point of suffocation. He had bruises all over his body and had many needle punctures. Not only that, the police also discovered the decomposing body of a girl hidden in the attic. The police discovered that the young girl's house contained a lot of drugs and other illegal substances under the bed. My wife and I were dumbfounded. That killer girl was Laura. The man's body was Merlin, my daughter's boyfriend. My wife burst into tears. She looked at me in pain but couldn't say a word. I understood what my wife meant. I was frightened by my speculations in my head. I contacted the police in charge of Selena's disappearance. After investigation, they determined that the decomposing body of the girl in Laura's house was Selena, my daughter. Police said Laura admitted that she and Merlin had been secretly going back and forth behind Selena's back. That birthday party, they had a terrible argument. After all the guests left, Laura, Merlin, and Selena remained to resolve the conflict. In anger, Selena was strangled by Merlin. Laura witnessed my daughter gradually lose her life but was very happy. They became a couple, often going to Laura's house to have fun and use drugs. In a drunken stupor, Laura strangled Merlin while he slept and then used a needle to stab Merlin's body multiple times. So the person I picked up that night was Laura. She disguised herself as Selena and created a mysterious disappearance. Why don't I recognize my own daughter? I'm Diego, living in San Diego, a beautiful coastal city in the state of California. I'm from an American Hispanic community. There's a mysterious and scary story that happened in November 10 years ago when I was 15 years old. We Mexicans have a special festival for the dead, El Día de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. This is a very old festival that represents Mexican traditions and is held on November 1st and 2nd every year. It is also an important occasion to remember ancestors and deceased loved ones. The festival with fun and colorful activities makes children like us extremely excited, with the belief that the soul of the deceased will return to visit the family during these days. Mexicans will dress up as evil characters to welcome and have fun with the spirits. I remember that year I dressed up as a walking skeleton. On the morning of the first day of the festival, I went with my parents and my brother, who was 2 years older, to the cemetery to visit my grandparents' graves. While my parents cleared the weeds around my grandparents' graves, my brother and me were running around and see the decorations on the other graves. Even though our parents asked us to obediently stand in one place, my brothers and I did not listen. Walking around, I stopped at a grave with many objects of the deceased. I read out loud the name engraved on the tombstone. When my mother heard it, she got angry and asked me to stop immediately. I even laughed at my mother's anger, continuing to run and jump around. I am attracted by a tomb with fresh colors. Decorative objects are very modern toys. For a child born into a normal family like me, these are extremely luxurious items. I reached out and took the toy car, looking at it with interest and joy. When I looked at the tombstone, I was a bit startled to see that the name on it was the same as mine. Seeing that the day, month, and year of birth were the same, I was quite surprised. The time of death of the person in this grave was 1 year ago. I stood there blankly looking at the grave until my brother ran over and patted me hard on the shoulder. My parents from afar called out to my brother and me to quickly turn around and prepare to leave. I secretly took the toy from the grave and hid it from my parents. That night, a series of strange and scary things happened to me. As a 15-year-old child, I was not clearly aware of the problems I was facing at that time. That evening during dinner, my ears suddenly started ringing. I couldn't hear everyone in my family talking anymore. Instead, there was a certain whisper. I can't hear what that person is saying. The whisper was very soft, but I knew it was a man's voice. It sounded like a boy. That situation happened for how long I don't remember. Only when my mother shouted loudly did I suddenly wake up. Everyone in the house looked at me with confused eyes. Mom reminded me to focus on the meal and what everyone was sharing. I quickly finished my food, then asked permission to go back to my room. I really want to tell my parents about the strange thing that just happened, but I'm afraid they won't believe a child like me. I kept thinking about those strange things and fell asleep without realizing it. When I opened my eyes, I woke up. I was startled to realize I was lying in a very narrow space. It fits so my body lies neatly. I began to feel extremely claustrophobic as I became aware of the space around me. The first thing I did was try to struggle and scream loudly, but to no avail. Suddenly from above, successive blocks of earth fell down. Oxygen became less and less. Soil fell into my mouth, eyes, and nose, causing me to gradually lose the ability to breathe and resist. When reaching the peak of tolerance, I got up. Before my eyes was a familiar room, a thick blanket covering most of my body. My brother sitting next to me laughed loudly with excitement. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted angrily. "You look so interesting with that expression." He didn't notice my discomfort and continued joking. I angrily kicked him out of the room and locked the door. The next day is the last day of the festival. My mother prepares typical holiday dishes. My favorite is tamales. but I don't feel the delicious taste of bread anymore. In my mouth is the smell of earth, though now I am not sure what it was. It reminds me of the haunting dream I had yesterday. Look at the plate of pan de muerto on the table. I blinked and was startled when the plate of bread turned into many human skulls with their mouths open. I stood up in fear. I also dropped my plate of food to the ground. My parents and brother looked at me in surprise. I was scared and cried while telling them about the horrors I had encountered. Parents looked at each other with worried eyes. Mom ran to hug me. I don't know if they believe what I say or if they think I have mental problems. That afternoon, I invited my brother to go back to the cemetery without telling my parents. My brother did not agree because he was busy playing games. I returned to my room, but the feeling of sadness and curiosity about that tomb always stuck with me. Looking at the stolen toy car left on my bed, I felt a shiver of fear. Holding the toy in my hand, I secretly ran to that cemetery alone I left in its original position. Slowly approaching that grave, I was surprised to see the photo placed on the grave. That photo was just added. In the photo is a boy who looks exactly like me, wearing hospital clothes. In his hand he held the toy car I took. He has no hair. He smiled brightly, but his eyes were a bit sad. I've been obsessed and sensitive to everything around me since the festival. I had to undergo psychological treatment for 2 years at the local psychiatric hospital. My study program also had to be suspended for 2 years. I'm currently 25 years old, just graduated from college last year. I always ask the question, who is that boy? Does the Day of the Dead festival really connect the dead with the living?